Greetings. So we've got this question that is here. The question is saying, describe an experiment you would carry out in a school laboratory to show the differences between the magnetic properties of iron and steel bars. So they want you to carry out an experiment you can perform in your school labs. So this question is so simple. Wow, you know that iron, this one is easily magnetized as well as easily demagnetized. This one is difficult to magnetize and difficult to demagnetize. So they want you now to carry out an experiment you would perform, or an experiment you would carry out in a school laboratory. The first thing you need to do, you need to carry the iron bar and the steel bar. You put them or press them in a solenoid that gets to be connected to a DC supply, which is a direct current. So you need to set up an experiment like this. This is an experiment that you need to set up. Have you seen this particular experiment? So you need to have an experiment of this kind. So you are going to observe that upon turning the switch on, so you are going to observe, these are certain observations. Upon turning the what? So you say that upon turning the what? Upon turning the switch on, upon turning the switch on, so just upon turning the switch on, you observe that iron attracts what? Iron attracts, so iron attracts more what? Iron attracts more iron firings, so firings than what? Than steel. This is what you are going to observe. So upon turning the switch on, you discover that, have you seen, iron gets to have more of these firings than steel. Steel has just attracted few. But iron, a lot of these tumor particles are attached to the iron bar. Both of them are pressed at the same distance. But this one is attracting more of these tumor particles compared to that other one that is there. So this is the first observation that you are going to see. So you are carrying out an experiment in your school laboratory. You also proceed and you say, but once the switch is open, once the switch is opened, once the switch, so I'm going to say that, but once the switch is what? Once the switch is opened, you discover that when we open this, now current is not flowing through this solenoid, you discover that iron loses more of these firings than steel. So you discover that iron loses. Iron will do what? Iron now gets to lose. So loses what? I'm going to say loses more what? Loses more firings than what? Than steel. So the question was, describe an experiment you would carry out in a school laboratory to show the differences between the magnetic properties of iron and steel. So we want to show some magnetic properties. So these are some of the magnetic properties that we've seen. So we can now conclude and say this in conclusion, or because of these two things that we've observed. When we turn the switch on, when we cross the switch, in other words, when current starts passing through, you discover that iron will attract more of these particles compared to steel. When we open it like that, when I disconnect like that, you discover that iron loses more of those particles than steel. So we've observed these two things. So in conclusion, what can you say? We are writing an experiment. So you can say that the conclusion can be made from these observations. So you discover that iron is easier to magnetize than steel. On the other end, iron is easy to demagnetize than steel. So these are two things that you observe. So once we get to connect these two in pressed in a solenoid to DC current there, DC supply, you discover that these will becomes magnets. The two will become magnets, and will be able to attract some these to my metal. These are called ion firings. So you discover that there will be ion will attract a lot of these to my small metal particles like that, compared to steel. But both of them are magnet, because this one takes time for it to become a magnet, but this one sharp becomes a magnet and is able to attract other small particles like you've observed. So in conclusion, or you need to understand that because of their magnetic properties shown in the demonstration of these experiments that we've done, iron and steel have the following uses. One, you observe that iron is used in temperomagnets. For example, we can talk of electromagnets. So electromagnets there, we get to find what? Iron. But when we are talking about steel, steel is used in making permanent magnets. This is what you need to get and understand. I guess we've revised through these things, and you've seen how I've explained throughout from the start of this particular lesson. So this is how these things get to move, and this is how you need to understand them. I guess you've learned one or two things concerning magnets. We were just revising through together. Don't forget, I get to offer tuitions in maths, science, which is chemistry, physics, as well as biology, religious education 2046. I'm here to help you get that particular distinction that you want. So the lessons get to be done at an affordable fee. So you can WhatsApp me on this particular number. Gets to help you get that distinction at an affordable fee. So this is my number. You can WhatsApp me on this particular number. I'm going to help you get the distinction that you want to get in an easy way without any struggle. And for some of you that we've been a blessing to, maybe you want to support in any way, this is also the number that you need to reach me on. If you want to, okay, I want to send the $2 to the sir, this is the number that you need to use. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to follow us on all social media platforms. Get to use the same name, Harrison J. Zuru Tutor. Facebook, I've got a WhatsApp channel, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. This is the same name that I get to use. Thank you so much for staying up to this time. If you are new on this platform, don't forget to follow us, subscribe, so that each time I get to upload the new content, you get to be updated. Thank you so much for your support. Have a wonderful day.